welcome to all of you who come this evening. That's quite a number of people. I didn't quite expect this many people to come on Friday night. Busy, probably all of you. But my name is Nayaswami Jaya. For those of you who I've not had a chance to meet, I know many of you over the years. I've been coming and going time to time every year or so, and coming to visit ever since probably 2013. Probably 2013 I came, and we did that big program for Swami back then. And after that, we've been coming regularly. And I know Diana's come, and many of you know Sadhana Devi, my wife. They're coming. She comes from time to time. Although most of the time she's in the United States. So it's my joy to be here with you this weekend. And I was told that this evening we'll have just a little satsang together, and that I can say anything I want. There's no specific agenda, but once we get to that part of this of the evening, you can ask questions as well. And sometimes, because there is no set agenda, it helps if sometimes maybe somebody will ask something, and then we'll go in that direction wherever it goes. But I'll get it started, and then we'll see where it goes. So it's my pleasure to be here. And so I'm going to begin with a little bit of chanting, and then let's meditate a little bit. We won't meditate so long tonight, maybe 10 minutes, let's say. Let's meditate 10 minutes. And then we'll just have a discussion and sharing. I see that is more like the theme maybe we have this evening. And by the way, I see a number of you that were with me and some of us, others of us, last weekend. We had a retreat, a Kriya Bond retreat up in Pune. And I see that there's a number of you came. And I mentioned that because I want to thank you for coming, because it really it was helpful in many ways, especially to have a group of cheerful souls who come as a group, because there's a nice energy that you brought up there. And it helped the retreat. Not just the facility, of course it helped that, but it helped the vibration of the group there. Because when other people left, they noted, wasn't it so great to have those folks coming down from Chennai there, and people commented on it. So on behalf of all of those people and on behalf of the retreat, I thank you very much for coming and participating. And that, you might say, is an advertisement for those of you who haven't visited to come next time you come. We're having another Kriya retreat in June. I believe in June we have we have another one, and we have them about once every 4 or 5 months. And we had this thought. I see you said it could talk about anything, so I'm going off a little track here. But we had this thought that after that retreat, that one of the retreats, the Kriya retreats that we do every 4 months or so, we're going to extend it. So next year, we started on Thursday evening this time, and next year we're going to do one of them Wednesday evening and extend it by 1 day, see how that goes. If it goes good, we're going to extend it by another day and go from Tuesday evening, and we're going to make it. Eventually, we're thinking maybe we can create something like we have in the United States, which is, they go a whole week from Sunday night to the following Sunday. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but we want to create something a little bit longer, because when you do something longer, you can go into a retreat experience a little bit more deeply that way. And so when we come to a decision of which actually date we're going to do that, we send out an invitation to all of you, and many of you, I hope, will come from Chennai to help us be able to inaugurate that direction. So let's keep that in mind. So I was coming here this morning, and my flight was delayed by an hour. So as it was, I was at the airport early anyway, and so I had to spend an extra hour there. And so what does one do when one has time on one's hands? Well, I did my email. I caught up on my email at the airport, and as I was catching up on the email, I came across one email that I hadn't glanced at. I received it a couple days ago, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll come back and read it at another time. And perhaps some of you received this as well, because it was sent out. It looks like it was sent out to a group. And this was sent out, Brahmachari Sagar sends these things out, and he finds things on the internet every so often, and he sends it out and shares it. And I don't know if he sent it out to how widely, but it was a series of sayings that by one of the monks that was a contemporary of Swami Kriyananda at Self-Realization Fellowship, a monk by the name of Swami Turiyananda, Brother Turiyananda. And he was a very highly regarded monk, and by Swami, by everybody who came to know him. And he passed away some years ago. I can't remember, must be 15, 20 years ago by now. Do you remember when he passed? It was, anyway, it's not. Yeah, it was a while back, but he was for many years the monk who was in charge of the shrine at in Los Angeles, known as the Lake Shrine, and he was in charge of that, and so he became known for a number of sayings that he would. That he would say, little witty little sentences that he would say, and somehow these got recorded, some of them got recorded down, and so Sagar came across them and he sent them, and I thought I'd share a few of them with you before I go on further. And he says, and one of them was, our behavior during the day makes our meditation at night. Let's think about that. Our behavior during the day makes our meditation during the night. Or you could say maybe your meditation during the night makes your day the next day. You hope to carry it over one into the other. Then he says, Lord, I would like this very much, but please don't give it to me. Have you ever had that? I was reading these, and I was relating them to things in my own life. And about must have been last Tuesday. I went with one of the young fellows at theirs in the ashram or in the center there. Many of you know Gaurav, and so I went with Gaurav to Reliance Market and the shopping market. So we went to Reliance, and as we were going in, there was a young lady there, and they had on a stand, they had a very beautiful Royal Enfield motorcycle. Beautiful, beautiful. It was all just really nice and shiny and, brand new. And she was handing out tickets so a raffle, and the winner of the raffle gets the motorcycle. And so I says, Gaurav, look, come, look at this. We got to get the raffle, and then we got to enter the raffle. And I want to enter the raffle. And I was looking, I says, oh, isn't that a beautiful bike? And then I was doing this about 30 seconds, and then I caught myself. I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? But that beautiful Royal Enfield motorcycle triggered a little samskar in me from when I was maybe 20 years old. See, when I was in college, I had a motorcycle. I had a couple of different motorcycles. And the Royal Enfield always has a very classic, you see. It's an old-timey classic look, motorcycle. And when I was in college, a motorcycle, something like that, it's very similar to another British motorcycle, a Triumph motorcycle. They were similar motorcycles, and I always wanted one of those. And then I never had one, but I always wanted one. And that samskar, I thought was gone, but but it triggered it, and it says, "Oh, look at that, and maybe I can win." And I started to fill this thing out. And I thought, what in the world am I doing? I don't want this. What would I do if I won this motorcycle anyway? I guess I could have given it to somebody, and somebody would have had it. But it wasn't that. It was the reason. It was this little bit of renewed desire from my youth that was still there. And I thought, oh my God, how many of those do we have? And we think that they're all gone, and I don't care about those things anymore. And really, rationally, I don't really want a motorcycle. I don't really want, but remember that story that Swami tells in his book that Master had said, we have to, in order to attain freedom, we have to free ourselves from all desires. And Swami said, well, Master, all desires, even the desire for when we're a child for an ice cream cone? And Master says, oh, yes, that too. And even the desire for a motorcycle? Yeah. Which you really don't have anymore. I mean, I don't have, but I bet incarnated into a new young body of 18 years old, young male, I'd probably really like that motorcycle and it's there. And we get pulled in again and again and again. And you can see, how is it possible to even be able to get rid of all of these or to burn these up? Because we're not even aware of what it is in the background that is driving us. And of course, this is a simple little thing, but there are other things too, that we have all of these, how many lifetimes it's going to take to be able to work all of these out. But then even more scary is we work a few of them out, and then we gather a whole bucket full of new ones. And so we're never going to be able to free ourselves of desires by working them out. We think, oh, I'll work these desires out, now they're gone. Well, no, it doesn't quite work that way because we make new ones. So what's the answer? And of course, this is this is why we practice Kriya Yoga. We get to the point where we can begin to burn those out. And we find that really then little by little by little we begin to burn those out. And I remember when I first came onto this path and began to study these teachings about how it's said the saints and the sages they say you need to get rid of all your desires. And I thought, okay, that's that, and I'm not going to have any desires. And slowly I began to realize that I don't think that's going to work that way, because it's almost impossible. And so there's something else is needed. We need to raise ourselves to the point where these desires our consciousness is such that they're inconsequential. And Master, and this is what Swami also reiterated, that really, yes, the goal is for freedom to get rid of all these desires, but the first thing is get to the point, we need to raise our consciousness to the point where we know God. And if we know God, that puts us in a position where then all the other, these little desires don't mean anything after that point. First, know God. And then the desires will take care of themselves. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you. Or in this case, seek ye first the kingdom of God, know God, and all these others will be taken away from you. And because really, if you're in God, then these things get burnt and they get expressed and they get taken away naturally and in their own proper place, you see. And they say that this state, and this is what Swami Kriyananda used to tell us, he said, our goal as devotees, as meditators, as people who are devotees, disciples of these great masters, our goal in this lifetime is to reach that state of Jivan Mukta, that state of freedom in God. We're not free in that state of all our karma, you see, because you still have all of this karma. But if you know God and you have God with you, you're not free. You haven't reached moksha at that state. But if you're in God, all of these desires get taken away little by little because there's no attachment. You're no longer creating new karma. And I think that's where we want to be. No longer stirring the pot of making new desires. And the old desires for the motorcycle, they take care of themselves. And God will take them at the right time or somehow work it out. I've noticed this in my lifetime, that things will happen and I'll recognize it. Something will come to me. And I thought, that I seemingly, I had no desire for it all. And it'll come to me, and then it'll remind me, oh, I wanted this a long time ago. And it was fulfilled. And God fulfills, because ultimately God fulfills all desires. And if you leave it to God to take care of the details, then you find that everything works in its proper place and at its proper time. Please come in. You're going to have to find a spot anywhere that you can fit. You'll find that, and there's some cushions too. Please take. You'll find that in that way, things work themselves out in the natural way. So I think I was laughing at myself about that motorcycle. But then I thought, that it really doesn't matter. Long as I watch myself and don't allow myself to start stimulating new karma with that, because it doesn't matter. But we have millions of those. So the only reasonable way to overcome it is find God first. And then God will fulfill them in the right way. You'll see the karma, then even the bad karma will be fulfilled in the right way, in a kind way. Because some people, they worry about their karma, all the karma that they've created, and they're in the last analysis, there's no good karma, bad karma. It's just karma. And sometimes it's difficult. The difficult karma comes to us. But you find that if you raise your consciousness, you'll find that when a difficult situation comes, it's really just a little bump. Whereas if you were in the lower state of understanding, it might have very much thrown you off. But when you raise your consciousness, it's just a little bump. Swami Kriyananda said that he had gone to various astrologers at one time in his life. People wanted to do his chart, and so he gave them the information. And they would often comment that he had a very bad horoscope. Now, that's a wrong way of saying it, because there is no such thing as a bad horoscope. It's a horoscope. It's what we do with it and what happens. Now, he had a very adverse horoscope. And I'm not an astrologer to tell you how that, but it was going to show in other words, the astrologer said, you've had so many obstacles in your life. Most people would not like that. But in Swami's case, for him, it was actually a good horoscope. Good, bad, because in his life, it was obstacles that meant that he had challenges. And when you're of a certain caliber of person, a challenge is what you need in life. It's to be able to rise yourself above those challenges. And he said sometimes people would say, you've had very difficult, challenges. Look at all, this horoscope. And Swami would say, I don't know. It's not, for him, it wasn't all so much of a challenge. But for perhaps another person, it would have been very difficult. But so for him, for his sake, to have challenges in his life was a positive thing, because it meant that he had the opportunity to do great things in this lifetime. And if you're going to do great things, you're going to have challenges. So remember that in your own life. If you run into a life where you have challenges, difficulties, Well, it's asking something of you. It's asking for you to rise up to a certain level to be able to respond to those challenges. And so is it good or is it bad? Well, if you pass the test, it's definitely good. And a challenge is, even if you don't always pass the test, it called out something from you to raise yourself up to a certain level. And so that was my experience with my motorcycle the other day. And anyway, back to Brother Turyananda. He says here, God will help you much more if you willingly discipline yourself. Otherwise, he will use the 2x4. Now, the 2x4 it's a name for a piece of lumber, wooden lumber, 2 inches by 4 inches, that is used in the construction of houses. So a long piece of lumber, 2 inches by 4 inches, and God will use the 2x4 if for those who don't willingly, as he says here, those who, God will help you much more if you willingly discipline yourselves. Otherwise, he will use the 2x4. And I think this, for the devotee, this is something really to keep in mind. God wants us, we're his children, he's calling us back. And if you have entered onto the spiritual life, truly, if you've entered as a disciple, on some level of your heart, going back to this word challenges in the last one, you have asked, I don't know if you realize you did this, but you have asked for the Guru's grace to help you. Right? Isn't that so? We've asked for the Guru to help us. Now, if we're willing, and also if you're a good disciple, you have submitted yourself to that help, right? I hope you have. Some people, of course, ask for that help, but they don't submit themselves to the help. Now, you have to do both, but if you submit yourself to the help, you accept the help that's offered you. Well, now you can, the wise disciple is one who submits to God's help willingly and willingly takes on and accepts the challenge of changing themselves. The willingly takes on the challenge of doing the reformation of themselves into something beautiful and something perfect. If you don't, you have asked God to help you, and God will then use other means. The 2x4. So that's the wise disciple is one who takes on that which comes to them with the spirit of willingness, a spirit of enthusiasm, not a spirit of reluctance. Oh, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do one thing or another? And if you're resisting the changes that are coming to you in life, you're going to find that you're going to experience pain of one sort or another. Not necessarily physical pain, but psychological pain, unhappiness, because you have asked for that. Now, if you don't want that, then you could say, I don't want this, what it takes to be a disciple. Because people think I've taken on the role of being a disciple. The Guru's now going to help me, and the Guru is now going to take away all obstacles from my path. He's going to sweep the path nice and clean and smooth, no rocks, no rocks, and no thorns. And it's just not how it works. Because the Guru is like the surgeon who is starting to remove little by little all of those things that are not supposed to be there. And if we say, yes, that's what I want, then we have to be willing to cooperate with that. And so consequently, it's a misunderstanding to think your life is going to become smooth because you have Guru's grace guiding you in life. It's not necessarily going to be smooth. The roughness is really just a result of your resistance to that transforming power of the Guru that comes into our lives, and when we submit ourselves to God. And so if we submit ourselves to it and we say, yes, God, everything that comes to me, it comes from you, and I will cooperate with that, and I'm going to do my best that. And you'll find if you take that attitude and do the very best you can in that attitude, then you find that things then begin to go smooth. They can go smoother for you, at least in the sense that you're willingly able to accept what comes to you. Whatever comes to you, let it come. Remember how Gyanamata said that her prayer, she saw something very painful, difficult coming to her in her meditations. And her first reaction was to, oh God, oh no, no. And then she caught herself and she said, no, change nothing, God. Lord, change nothing in my life. Change me. Change no circumstance in my life. Change me. And that's what we, that's the mark of a truly great disciple. Now, it doesn't mean that God won't answer your prayers and perhaps make it a little smoother. And remember, though, God will not give you a challenge that you don't have on some level within you the ability to meet. But it has to sum it up. It sums up. Now, I was counseling somebody recently, and this person was lamenting. This person is a very good disciple. Very good disciple. And good attitude, serviceful, willing, all of these things. But this person doesn't meditate very well. Not a very good meditator. And can't sit still for very long. Tries, but you got a good heart, great heart. Tries, but yet because the people in his company around him are people who like to meditate and are successful at it, he feels guilty all the time. He feels like a second-class disciple because he's not a very good meditator at all. And I was talking to him, and I says, you shouldn't feel that way because you have really what it takes in the sense of the proper attitude. You have everything, and this is what you have is the better. You have the better half. It's just this other part is needs a little bit of discipline on your part. And what this person lacked, I says, you don't lack. You're a great disciple. What you lack is the ability to be regular. That's all. And I was thinking about this. This is, I give advice to particularly people that are newer, and by newer, it means the person's come onto the path for, the first 5 to 10 years. That's a new person. See, your perspective changes as you get older. When I was 20 years old, I thought anybody over 25 was over the hill and too old. So that's the same thing. You get older, but anyway, whatever it is. But this is what I've noticed, that if a new person comes onto the spiritual life, and they have a lot of enthusiasm, and since Master's path, this path of Kriya Yoga, it's a meditative path, but it's also a path of service. It's a path of service and meditation. Often they are very enthusiastic about wanting to improve their meditative ability. But I advise people the first thing to do is, and they fall short oftentimes, because not everybody's temperament is the same. Not everybody's external situation is the same to allow for that to happen. And I said, don't worry about that too much. The more important thing, if you're a beginner, however we choose to define that, 20 years or whatever, the more important thing is to be regular. And this person was this person's problem. Because when we take up the spiritual life, the spiritual discipline, it's that first step They say a journey of a 1,000 miles begins with one step. And it's that first step that is the hardest. That's the very hardest. If you can make step number 1, and that step number 2, 3, 4 are much more easy. But it's that first step. And so this person who is a little bit, because they could not meditate very well, they thought they couldn't do anything, and consequently this person was irregular. And the same thing with the Kriya person who takes Kriya. We tell the person who takes Kriya to do 14 Kriyas. But they build up from that, and sometimes they can't really do a lot of Kriyas, but I said, that's okay, do 14. And if a person can organize, and if you can organize your spiritual life and your whole life really to be regular and do something, you're much further along the path than a person that can do much but very irregularly. And so consequently for this person, I was telling them, I says, get up in the morning. Can you get up in the morning, every morning, and set a time? Now, and for him, I was suggesting 6 o'clock, but it could have been 7, it could have been any time. Can you get up in the morning every day and meditate for 20 minutes? Now, 20 minutes he could do this, 20 minutes. The problem was he couldn't get up every day to do it 20 minutes. Now, when I met Swami Kriyananda, see, I speak from personal experience, because when I met him, he asked me to meditate half an hour every day. And I came back to him and I said, sir, I can't meditate half an hour every day. He says, okay, meditate 20 minutes. I can't meditate 20 minutes. Well, meditate 15 minutes. And I said, sir, I can't meditate 15. He says, well, how long can you meditate? And I thought, really it wasn't a matter. I can't meditate for 15 minutes, but I can sit there for 15 minutes. I can sit for 15 minutes. He says, good, start there. And that's what I did. I started. But it really wasn't that. It was I couldn't get up in the morning to do it regularly. I couldn't organize my life to be regular. And and that was the problem. And I think when I look at people in their spiritual life, when they come to me and say, well, I'm not having very good success, very good progress, whether it's meditation or Kriya Yoga, they're not able to be regular and organize their life. They can't get out of bed, and they can't go into the meditation room or wherever. They can't come to the temple. And if you can do that every day at the same time, night or rain, shine, and be regular, the rest of it will take care of itself. It does not matter how long you sit there if you can do it every day regularly, twice a day, at morning and evening. And this will apply whether it's meditation or whether it's Kriya Yoga, but it also is important for success too in anything. You have a job, now you have a job, you're a little bit more forced to do that. You're willing to discipline yourself if you've just graduated and you've gone out and you've got a new job, and you have to get up and do it, and you're willing to discipline yourself. And it's that same thing that we need to bring to our day-to-day meditation as well. It's that first little bit. Now, I often have broken this down in my life, because getting up in the morning is for a lot of people, it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. Just get out of bed. I wake up in the morning, and you know how it is. I look at the clock. I'm going to just lay here a little bit longer, and you know what'll happen. But and just get up, and that is actually right there. You've disciplined yourself. You've brought willpower to your life. I will do this. I can do this. You have to go to work. I will go to work. I will, whatever it is. And when you do that, you see, then what happens is you then invite God's power to come behind you. We think that we have to do this all ourselves, and particularly in the meditation path, we think that I have to meditate, and this journey of meditation is very difficult. But really, what we'd have to do is we have to open ourselves to God's power. Now, God's power is also known as grace. Grace is God's power. God's power, we have to open ourselves to God's power. God's power will help us in life if we open ourselves to that. And opening ourselves to God's power working through us is to take the first step. And whatever it is that we do, if you take that first step on your 1,000-mile journey, then God's power comes behind you. But if you're standing still waiting to take the first step, hoping that God's grace is going to get you started, it doesn't work that way. See, God doesn't do anything for us. He works through us and helps us to do it. And so we have, it's our putting something into motion, then we think, oh, I can't jump that far. But then you say, I'm going to try. I'm going to try. And then you try, and then somehow it helps you, and you go. And this is the you might say the if you can do this, take the first step, the 5 minutes, the 15 minutes, say, I will do this. Then God gets behind you. But if you don't show up, then it doesn't happen. You remember that? It reminds me of that story of Shivananda. The disciple went to Shivananda's ashram up in Rishikesh, and she went there. And I believe it was sadhana was at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, she was very enthusiastic when she went there, so she would get up and in the morning, she would hear the Shivananda and his wooden chappals clunk. You know, they make that clicking sound. He would come down the hallway and bump, 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 knock on the doors. Time to get up. Since he came and he would knock on her door, reminding her to get up. And she was new, and so she would get up. She's full of enthusiasm and go off to sadhana at that time in the morning. But a little time passed, and every morning, bump, bump, that knock would come. And she'd get up and go. And then finally, one day, knock, 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 and she'd, oh, I'm so tired. I'll just sleep a little longer. And she didn't get up. The knock stopped, never came again. And now, of course, was it really Shivananda making that behind the door, or was it just an act of, was she hearing things? But that knock stopped after that because she stopped. But at first, as long as she was cooperating with that, the power there of the Guru would be to help her. And now it doesn't mean that the Guru didn't want to help her, but she had to open herself up. And so it's the same way with us. We find that on the spiritual life, there's times when we're very inspired and then everything goes right. But then the challenge comes when we don't feel like it anymore. And this is where every one of us is going to run into this. But those are the times when the real work begins, when you get up in the morning and you don't want to get up. But if you've submitted yourself to the Guru and use yourself, discipline yourself, otherwise you say, I can't do it, and then God brings out the 2x4. And in some ways or another, you find sooner or later it's harder. You've made things harder for yourself. So anyway, let me go on. We got a little sidetracked on that one. But and he says, remember the Bushido code. That's the Japanese code of the Bushido warriors. Complaints are for the weak. Never complain is what he's saying. Never complain. Oh, this, because and I won't, they're self-explanatory. Maya will give you all sorts of things to rob you of better things. Maya will give you all sorts of things to rob you of better things. And this is of course true, is this world will give us all the things we want in this world. They're not bad. There's sometimes people they get on the spiritual life and they think, all these things, good food and happy times and fun and all these things, these are bad things. They're not bad. They're just things that you enjoy. But what happens is they also rob you of potentially having better things, you see, because God wants to give us lots of much more beautiful things that are a little bit more subtle. But it's like as long as we're satisfied with all of these other things, and that's what we run after in life, then we find that we say, okay, God waits. And it's only when we're how many, wonderful meals at night can I eat? And after a while, you say, I don't want that anymore. And the same thing is all different things come to us when we get to the point in our life when we say, I just don't want that anymore. I just don't want that. I want something else. I want something deeper. And then when we get to that point, when we say, no, I'm not satisfied, God. I'm not going to take your toys and all of the entertainments and all of these things outside. I want only you. Then God comes, and little by little, we start revealing a deeper side of the spiritual life. But it comes when we get to that point where we get tired. Yogananda said, life after life after life after life after life after life, until it reaches a point of agonizing monotony, again and again and again and again. And there's absolutely nothing wrong as long as you're enjoying it and you think that's what we want. God gives us that. Until finally you come to the point you say, I don't want that anymore. I want something more. And then when we come to that point, we begin to think there's something more to going on here in this world that it's hidden. But I suspect there's something going on here. And when that suspicion begins to arise in you, that there's something behind this screen of that, and you begin to suspect it, then little by little it begins to reveal itself to you. And then you find that becomes the motivating factor of your life. You want to know the truth. And until you do, you lifetime after lifetime. But when that spark gets lit, I want to know the truth. Then it begins to reveal itself. You could sort of say, Divine Mother says, okay. It's like, remember that story of, I think we were talking a little bit about it last weekend, about Bob Raymer. He went to Master. You've all seen that. I don't know if you've seen that video of Bob telling that story. Do they? No? You should show that sometime. Bob, I think I might have the audio on my, maybe I'll play the audio tomorrow if I can find it. But anyway, Bob goes to Master, and he was a disciple who had taken the lessons from Yogananda, and he wanted to meet him, and so he. It's a long story. Maybe I'll leave it for the tape. But he ends up going to meet Yogananda, and he goes up to meet Yogananda, and Yogananda welcomes him, just embraces him and welcomes him like a long-lost son. And Bob wanted Kriya Yoga. And so he says, I want Kriya Yoga. And then Master would completely change the subject. Whenever Bob brought up the word Kriya Yoga, he changed the subject. He'd give him sweets. He would show him pictures of Master would show him pictures of his family, tell him stories. And Bob would say, well, he said he was enjoying it all, but he says, yes, but Master, about this Kriya Yoga. And then Master would change the subject again, continually trying to distract him into some other realm. And this is what, in a sense, that's what Maya does to us. God, it just tries to distract us into all sorts of other things. But Bob was persistent. And he kept coming back to, he says, yes, but Master, about this Kriya Yoga. And then finally, the way he tells the story, Master, in somewhat of an exasperated voice, says, all right, all right, 10 o'clock tomorrow. And then he promised to give him, and then of course there's a whole wonderful story after that. But he was persistent. And he says, I wasn't going to give up until Master answered his question for Kriya. And then finally Master realizes he's serious. And he says, okay. And then he invites him to be initiated. And this is how we have to be. We have to be persistent with what we really want. Because God will give us all this other things. People come to the spiritual life for all sorts of reasons. And so they're just relative. They're not, once one's come to the Guru and come to the spiritual path, that's the important step. But it's easy to get sidetracked in all sorts of things. But we've come because we want to know God. I hope that's why you've come as well. We want to know the truth. And if we keep reminding the Gurus, I want to know the truth. And then I'm willing to do what's necessary to be shown the truth. Now that's a little more courageous. And then acting on that, demonstrating it, taking that first step, taking whatever step is necessary to open the heart, and then God being willing, whatever comes, you see it as coming from God and say, thank you, God. It's all coming from you. And then we find, little by little, we find that slowly, God begins to reveal a little bit of that truth, a little at a time. But eventually, then the truth will come to us. Now, I'm going to finish a couple of more of these before we're going to have a little finish by 9 o'clock. We're going to do a arti, and I'd like to, we'll do a blessing as well. But just a couple, just to finish. Brother Turyananda would say, you will know who is your Guru when God is satisfied with your sincerity. When we're truly sincerity, the Guru's identity will be revealed to you. Then finally, all my life I have taken care of this body and of this mind, and when I die, I discover I am not this body and this mind, and all my life I have taken care of somebody else. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't leave you time to ask questions, but for those of you who are coming tomorrow, I will correct that. And we'll have a nice chance to have a question and answer and just discussion time at that time. So I hope to see you tomorrow when you come tomorrow as well.